All right, we're going to go ahead and start to code up this name extraction example. And what I've done is filled in the comments ahead of time. So I'm sort of following my design based on the flowchart that we developed and put in comments. And now we can get down to actually implementing the code that does those steps. So first off, notice that we have an import statement. Whenever we're doing Java dialog box input and output, we need that java x.swing.star import statement so that we have access to those libraries. So we need to have that. Now, the next step then is the first thing in our flowchart, that is to get our input string. So we'll call that particular string in, because it's our incoming string, and we'll use our JOption pane show input dialog method that we've used before to get that value. And I'm going to break my line here with a plus. I'm using string concatenation. And I'm using an escape character, the \n, to break the line so that my prompt will be on 2 lines instead of one very long line. Okay? Now, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says exit the program and put in my exit method call at that point. And then I'm going to test. Remember, we want to code a little, test a little as we go, so let's make sure that our input dialog box works. If I run the program, here's my dialog box, and then my prompt looks appropriate. Enter first name, middle initial, last name, separated by single spaces. So I can type in that name, and then the program ends, of course, because it's not doing anything else. But at least I'm confident that the dialog box comes up. Okay? Now I'm going to use some methods to extract my names. Okay? Let's do my first space first. So I'm going to find the location of that first space in the string. And I'm going to do that by calling the index of method in from the string named in, and the parameters that I pass to it tell it that it's looking for a space. Okay? So for this string in, I'm going to use its index of method to search for an empty space. What it will return is a number that's the index of the first location of that space, and so that will be stored in that particular location. Okay? All right. Then we can use what's called the substring method to extract that. So let's put our first name into a string named first name. I'm going to call the substring method from the first name object, begin at the beginning, and the first character not included in the first name will be my first space. Okay? So now, having done that much, I should have my first name. How could I test that? Well, I could do a partial output. So I'm going to use my magic JOption pane show message dialog method call, and as we go, we'll just put in each of the pieces that we find. At this point, we only have our first name. So let's save this, then run it, and if I drag my input box over, so if I do Sally S. Jones again, and my output shows me that it's extracted Sally successfully. So yay for me, it's still going well. Okay? Do you see how we're writing a little, testing a little, writing a little, testing a little? That way if something goes wrong, we always know where to look for the wrong piece. Okay, now let's try to get our middle initial and then the last name. Okay, in order to get our middle initial, we have to get the location of the second space, and that will be another index of method call. But what we'll have to do is, even though we're still looking for spaces, we'll have to tell it to start at one space or one location beyond where we ended with the first space, right? Otherwise, we'll keep getting the index of the first space, even though we want the second one. So our second parameter tells it to start after the location where the first space was found. Then we can get our middle initial, again by using the substring method, but we're going to use it with different numbers. We're going to start at one beyond the first space in the original string and go up to one before the location of the second space. All right, so that should work, but just to make sure, let's go ahead and display the results. So I'll put in a line break in my dialog box, output, and a prompt. And then I'll save my program, run it, and let's see what happens. There we go. Sally and S. So far, so good. All we have to do now is find the last name, and we already really have enough information to do that because there's a second way to use substring. So my last name variable will be another method call from in. But now if I just give it one number, second space plus 1, it's going to start one space beyond where we found the second space in the string, one location beyond that, and give me everything else in the string, which should be the last name. Okay? And there's diagrams in the textbook that help to explain all that. So now we'll do my last bit of output. Save the program, execute it. Here's my dialog box. And there's my output. Sally S. Jones, just like we wanted. All right? So again, we got an input string via an input dialog box, and then using index of and substring, we're able to extract the first name, middle initial, and finally the last name. And then the easy part is to do our output. Okay? There we go. That's the names example.